Welcome back to DajibanLife, and I just did an oil change and a coolant flush, and you can see the coolant is pretty nasty. It was brown and it probably is still kind of brown in there because I didn't like super clean it, like with water, you know, run water through it like 3 or 4 times to get everything out and then refill it up back with coolant. So it's probably like a little bit lighter shade of this turd brown, but you know, whatever. I think it'll be fine for now. Maybe I'll do another coolant flush in July before my big road trip to deliver my friend to his wife. But anyway, today what I'm going to do is I'm going to degrease the entire engine. So before I do that though, I figured I would swap out the alternator and this idler pulley, because I think it's making noise here, like kind of like a salt shaker kind of noise. The only thing I didn't do today was the tranny fluid. I think I'll do that next time, just because it's a little bit more involved and there's a bunch of stuff I need to do today. So I'm gonna swap these two guys out, degrease the entire thing, and yeah. Alright, got the alternator and the idler pulley out. For some reason the alternator was a lot harder to get out than it should have been, but I'm gonna go ahead and remove this belt, which still looks really good actually. Looks pretty new. I mean, there's some cracking because of just how old it is. It's probably like 20 years old, but other than that it looks fine. So once this belt's out, I'm gonna go ahead and start spraying the degreaser. Alright, well, it's all put back together. I actually had to reuse the old alternator just because the new one out of the old van had a different kind of post. It was skinnier, so technically it would work, but I don't know. And this one's a little bit bigger also than this one, so the fit was kind of awkward and everything. This is the original Denso unit, so it's name brand. Denso is a really good company. So I think I might just keep it. It's fine. I'll replace it later if it goes out. Alright, so the plugs and wires are all swapped over. Here are the old plugs out of the new van. I know it gets confusing, but these were the existing plugs, and as you can see, they're corroded pretty badly. I don't know if they're salvageable. I think they might be. I mean, the van was running on these, so they're pretty worn though. It looks like the gap's pretty severe. So yeah, these are probably due for a change, but since I'm not going to be driving my old van, nothing wrong with putting these in there, just cleaning them up a little bit, just so that they work a little bit better. And then yeah, but here's, I guess, the moment of truth. I'm gonna start this up now, now that I have everything connected. Hopefully I connected all the wires back correctly. The one weird thing I did find was that the valve cover bolts had come loose for some reason. I've never seen that before on any car, not just this car, but on any kind of vehicle. This bolt right here and a couple of other ones on both sides were loose, and you can tell because on all these spark plugs they're all oily except maybe this one, but the threads on them are all oily. And I thought, oh wow, there must be a lot of oil blow-by going into the cylinders. But I don't think that's the case. I think just the valve cover was leaking oil into these little pockets here, and oil was just getting into the cylinders that way through the threads of the where the the spark plug sits. Because when you look at the what do you call it, the element itself, there's no oil on that, unlike the other van where there was oil on the tip. But this one, there's no oil on the tip, so that means the oil is just on the outside. So it's just leaking from the valve cover onto the spark plugs. So that's kind of weird. I've never seen that before. I've had bad valve cover gaskets, like gaskets go bad and then oil leak from that, but I've never had the bolts come loose, even as much vibration as there is, So that's something I guess I should watch in the future. If those bolts come loose again. You know what I mean? I probably need to change out the gaskets anyway. But I wonder, the reason I bring it up is because I wonder if it's not like a mechanic special. You know what I mean? Like a perfectly working engine, you have a customer come in for some routine maintenance, like an oil change or something, and then they just, maybe undo a bolt here or there or whatever, you know what I mean? Just loosen it up so that it starts leaking. So then the next time the customer comes in or whatever, you could just be like, oh yeah, we discovered an oil leak. How much is it to fix it? And they quote like $800 or something. Because an oil leak sounds pretty, pretty serious. Because normally engines, if you're leaking oil, that's not good. It's like bleeding for a human being, a body, right? Like if you're bleeding, that's probably not good. I mean, depending on the circumstances, how serious it is, obviously coming from the valve cover gasket, is not that serious. But a regular person, especially someone who would staple the cloth back onto the ceiling, might not know any better, you know what I mean? And so I wonder if that's what happened, and maybe it just got too costly for the person to deal with, and they just abandoned the vehicle, you know what I mean, and just left all their leggings and whatnot inside the van. I only bring that up because I've had an experience too on my truck. I have a Ford Ranger where I had some sort of evap issue, and there was a check engine light, and I needed to get it smogged. And so instead of diagnosing myself, at that time I wasn't as like knowledgeable, I guess, about cars either. Like I worked on cars, but not a whole, just like general maintenance stuff. And an evap issue sounded scary to me because like evap, like I don't know what that is. I don't even know how it works. I know it has something to do with like the vacuum pressure inside. Even now I don't really know what evap does. Like I'll service it because it's not that hard to service, but at the time I didn't have a manual for the truck either, like a owner's manual or a fixing repair manual. And so I took it somewhere, and they kept it for about, I think, 3 or 4 days, telling me, oh yeah, we're working on it, whatever. And then I went back and, when I finally got it, they had turned the check engine light off, right? But then like a couple years, maybe a year later, the check engine light came back on. And by that time I had one of those OBD2 readers, the scanners, because that, I guess at that time I didn't have an OBD2 scanner. That's why I went to a mechanic. But now that I had an OBD2 scanner, I scanned it and it said that, this certain thing is broken, whatever. And I looked at it as the same thing. It's the same thing that they had done. The thing that I had gone in to get fixed by the mechanic was the same thing that went wrong. And so when I checked on it and I looked at it, they had basically just cut the line, right? Because it was a line, basically. It was what was wrong was that the line, there was supposed to be vacuum sensed in that line, but there was no vacuum in the line. And so what had happened was they had cut the line and they had just melted the plastic together to create a seal, right? So it felt like vacuum to the computer, but it wasn't actual vacuum, right? That it was sensing from the engine. So what had happened was that seal that they had made, because they had just melted the plastic together, like this tiny pinhole had formed over time or whatever, and then like air was coming in, and so vacuum was lost. And so that really made me, and I paid like $300 for that repair, right? Where they just basically just sealed the vacuum leak. Instead of just replacing the part, which was a $20 part that I got online, right? I ordered it. It came like the next day, basically, and I had it fixed within like a day and a half. You know what I mean? And they kept my truck for 3 days and charged me $300 for a $20 fix, and they didn't even fix it correctly. You know what I mean? And so that really, after that, I got super pissed, And after that, I refuse to take my car to a mechanic. Like, if anything, I'll fix it myself. You know what I mean? And if I can't fix it, then whatever, you know, I'll do something else. Find another car. But I will never ever take my car to a mechanic shop ever again. I mean, I'm sure there's honest ones out there, but all the mechanics I've ever dealt with, they've all been really shady, because I've know stuff about cars. So when they tell me, oh hey, yeah, you know, we have this and this, and I think you need this changed, and I'm like, really? You think I need that changed? Are you sure about that? You know, because like I know that I don't need. I just changed that. You know what I mean? So it's kind of funny sometimes taking your car to a mechanic, knowing full well what's wrong with it, and asking them and seeing what they say. Because a lot of time, if you know what you're talking about, they'll just make shit up. It's really ridiculous, and how fraudulent a lot of that mechanic stuff is. An honest, but you know, looking at it realistically, an honest mechanic really can't make that much money. An honest mechanic is gonna starve to death basically, because it's a lot of work, and you know, a lot of the parts, like, you just can't make money fixing cars, honestly. Like, if you're doing it the right way, unless you're doing a high amount of volume, and you yeah. So the only way for them to make money is to lie and create problems that don't exist, and work on stuff, you know, that they don't actually work on. And they spend 10 minutes on your car, and they just do whatever works best, and then they just get it out, and they charge you 200-300 for it. You know what I mean? So I don't know, man. I just don't I don't like it. But anyway, that's seems like maybe what might happen, possibly. I'm assuming at this point. I'd said last week or a couple videos ago I wouldn't assume, so I'm not going to assume that that's what happened. But anyway, the oil leak should be fixed at this point, because I tightened those bolts down on the valve cover, and if it leaks a little bit, it's not that big of a deal. Oil leaking from the valve cover is not that serious. So but here we go. I'm gonna try starting it up. Hopefully it fires up. Nice. So I don't really notice a difference. It sounds about the same. I guess I'll notice a difference when I drive. The acceleration and stuff should be better. I remember let me go ahead and shut this off. So when I changed the plugs in my old van, right, I got better gas mileage. Like, I got 1 more mile per gallon. So hopefully this has been getting 14 miles per gallon so far that I've measured. So maybe I'll get 15. That'll be nice. Maybe during the startups, might start up a little bit easier, because this has been having trouble usually when it starts up. But the ECU needs to get adjusted to it. So, you know, I'm gonna have to wait maybe like 20 miles or so for that to adjust. But it looks like everything's working. So that was the spark plugs and my bad mechanic story. And so yeah, find you a good mechanic, man. Don't go to a dishonest mechanic. They'll screw you and just take your money. So yeah, but I think that's it for today, and thanks for watching.